Live from the Findlay Toyota studio, you're listening to ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, here we go on Thursday. Cofield and Company, live at the Battleborn Broadcast Center. Lots to get to. We got to move the show along. And yet, before the show, I don't know if you listened the other day, Jeff Parles, because I know you were down for the count a little bit at the beginning of the week. Jeff Parles is in. James is back at our Findlay Toyota studios. We're here at the Battleborn Broadcast Center. But I guess it was last week, actually, when it was last Thursday. Brandy Flores was in, and John Von Tobel was explaining to her about my normal decorum before the show, which is sort of grumpy and rallying around and setting up and not really talking to anyone. And since then, I'm like, okay, if you want me to be, chatty Cathy, then I'll do it. And you and I were just talking about a myriad of topics before we came on, and you looked at me, you're like, we're on. I was like, we got 20 seconds.
It's...
I'm excited, dude. There's a lot to talk about.
It is. Hey, look, it's the dead period, though, Coach.
No.
It is. There's a lot going on in town. I was actually down on the Strip yesterday because we had a few friends who were in for Kenny Chesney and went to go say hello. And for a city that, according to some in the influencer world, have decided that is going the wrong direction, I think Vegas is doing all right, Cofield.
Every time I've been down there recently, and obviously we go down a lot on Fridays for shows, but I've gone down on weekends, and I'm trying to think the last time I was down there, maybe 2 weeks ago. I was like, my God. And I'm in all different properties, and it's been a good time. Listen, I don't want to come out of the gates all yelling and screaming, but we do have some excitement level for the A's, and I think we have demanded a standard, which is when they get here, they need to be a winning team, and they came out of the gates solid, at least. The division's not great, but they were playing 500 ball. I think that a high water mark of 27-24, and now you pointed out about 2 weeks ago that there was a really manageable stretch of games against the Angels and the Giants, and for a long time they were playing all games in California. They faced the Giants in this series, and they have a day game today. The Giants are a mess. Buster Posey is a nightmare. Devers is like he's fighting management. We keep hearing the Vitello college manager thing. Like, they're not playing good baseball. And the A's blew last night's game. It looks like they may blow today's game. There's still time, but they had a 2-0 lead, a 2-1 lead. Bullpen comes in. I don't even, who is freaking Barracoto? Last night he steps to the plate against my guy Elvis Alvarado, and forget about it.
High drive, left center field. It is out of here, and this game is
Giants TV on the call.
over.
Thank you, James, for pulling that one. Good.
We talked about this I think it was last Thursday. I think it was exactly a week ago, because they were going into that 4-game series with the Angels, where, all right, you're playing, even though their records might not be the worst, you're playing the team that I look at as the worst team in the American League, in the Angels, and you're looking at the biggest disappointed by margin. Well, one of the two biggest disappointments by margin in Major League Baseball, because the Giants and the Mets are 1-2 in whatever order you want to put them in. And this was a golden opportunity. You get the Dodgers in Sacramento next week. The red-hot Marlins coming afterwards. So the schedule gets much more difficult after these 7 games. You win the first 2. You win the second one against the Angels in just asinine fashion on Friday night. The game they were trailing 11-7 and came back and won. Or excuse me, they were trailing 11-6 and came back and won that game. And you're in a scenario where, all right, handle the weekend, even if you split. Go to San Francisco, win 2 out of 3, 5-2. Job well done. Find a way to go 3-3 against the Dodgers and the Marlins, and you know what? Job well done. You're still in really good shape. Instead, this is looking like this is heading towards a 2-5, which you just can't have. And not only this, Cofield, the Mariners are still only 41-41, leading the American League.
They haven't kicked
West.
it into gear. I thought their pitching was going to pick up here, but they've had some bad pitching performances.
And the Astros, who were left for dead by a lot, including me, are now ahead of the A's, which the Astros have been awful.
I told you.
For the most part this year, except for Jordan. And here they are ahead of you.
Payne is back. They're getting some pitching. So now the division is very much up for grabs because the Rangers aren't going to die. The Angels suck. It's 6-4 right now, top 8. Bottom 7, Langoliers drove in 2 with a single. So 6-4. A's were leading 2-1 going to the 6th, but they gave up a 5 spot. So trouble right now for the A's in the rivalry spot. They could be swept by the Giants. So last night, Willie Ramirez was kind of telling me there's a brewing rivalry behind the scenes between Phoenix and Indiana in the WNBA. And I really didn't know all the particulars, but he's going to come on in a little bit to explain because we never really got to it yesterday. And I know that was one of his assignments for his new job, Ball is Life. He was keeping an eye on the game to see if something happened. And, oh, boy, did something happen. Alyssa Thomas, who is a ruffian, she is an enforcer. She definitely likes to go after younger players and send a message. She's, body slammed and twisted and turned and slammed to the ground. Angel Reese in the past. And so last night there was contact with her and Caitlin Clark. I want your read on what happened, but the penalty has come down from the WNBA. People are really worked up about this overnight. I mean, everyone's coming out of the woodwork to talk about the WNBA, the officiating, the league, and the hatred of Caitlin Clark. But Alyssa Thomas got a flagrant foul, 2 and a 1-game suspension, as it says here, for recklessly making contact with her fist to the throat area of Caitlin Clark, the WNBA announced. What'd you see?
That's what I saw. I saw a closed fist, and it wasn't like it was dead center, but there was a fist thrown at a throat, which if it happened in the NBA, it would have went to review, and whoever it was would have got booted out immediately from the game. I mean, we've seen less than that cause ejections in the NBA. So, look, there obviously the connection with DeWanna Bonner and her time in Indiana last year that did not go well, and now she's on Phoenix, and Bonner's, realistically speaking, one of the 30 best players to ever play in the WNBA also. So that's one connection. Obviously, also Sophie Cunningham, who's one of the role players on Indiana, had a past in Phoenix too, and it apparently didn't end particularly awesome there either. And she was the one pointing the other night as well. But look, and Cofield, I know this will be, we'll talk about Willie in a few minutes. We'll talk about it later in the show as well. It just feels like to me that Stephanie Light really lost it on the officiating in the league last night in the post-game press conference, which we've really only seen one other time since she's took over, and it was last year. And it was more so, I thought it was more so that, the Fever weren't playing well at that point, and it was partly taking it out on the officials and partly taking it out on our own team. Now they ended up losing the game last night, and Phoenix is one of the worst teams in the league. But perception's reality, especially with a league that is not at the forefront of people's minds to begin with, and a league that has blossomed in part because of Clark being there. And if you like it or not, for the general person watching this like me, who is a very casual WNBA fan, who will go to a few Aces games a year because they have the best player on the planet, and they're really good and the environment's good. But I'm not going to go out of my way to go watch other teams. Sometimes I'll go out of my way to watch Clark. Sometimes I'll go out of my way to watch the Liberty. Why? It's because the league was more popular, and part of that is because Clark is a gigantic name and has helped the profile of the league.
All right. Well, let's build on this, Jeff. Not to cut you off. Let's build on this. Willie Ramirez coming up in less than 5 minutes. He's writing for Ball is Life. Of course, he's right here at ESPN Las Vegas as a regular member of Cofield and Company. Willie's on the way to tell us what the hell happened last night with the Fever and the Mercury and the suspension, and now an explosion of anger from people who really are casual viewers of the WNBA saying the league doesn't know what the hell it's doing.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, rolling on here this Thursday. We expected to talk just Aces and Wings, which is a really good game, and the Wings have had the Aces number. But, Willie Ramirez told me yesterday when he was in, he had a couple of projects he was working on. And before we get to what he was looking for last night in the Fever game against the Mercury, Willie, what's going on, buddy? I know you're working on something that revolves around, Kobe and an anniversary, right? What's going on at Ball is Life?
What's happening, guys? Thanks for having me. Yep, driving on my way right now to the arena. Big game tonight, but tomorrow, 30th anniversary of the day that Kobe Bryant was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets, and of course, wasn't too long after that, traded to the Lakers. So my new media partner, Ball is Life, I had pitched a story on, hey, let me recollect the summer before when he emerged, when a lot of people had their eyes on Tim Thomas possibly following in the footsteps of Kevin Garnett, or Lester Earl was a name out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and a couple other guys that were really part of the summer circuit. And Kobe Bryant got the MVP at the individual ABCD camp, and then came out here, got the MVP at the big time tournament, and I shadowed him. So I spoke to Jim Allen, who was one of the tournament directors, the athletic director at Durango. I spoke to Sam Rhines, the coach of the Sam Rhines team Philadelphia today, and just to talk about that aura that Kobe Bryant had long before he was actually the Mamba. And it was kind of cool to catch up with him, and so it'll be a big piece. It'll be released tonight on Ball is Life, and up for tomorrow morning for the 30th anniversary of Kobe Bryant being drafted into the NBA out of high school.
Very cool. Willie, we had so much going on yesterday. We never got to one of the stories we wanted to hit, and you had told me during the break that, hey, I got to watch this game between the Fever and the Mercury because of what's happened over time and what happened in the game before. And then last night, well, stuff happened. First, can you give the background on the Mercury and Indiana and the players on both sides? And obviously Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark is a side thing. We'll get to that. But what has been the recent history with the beef and the players changing teams?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with DeWanna Bonner when she went to Indiana from Connecticut. You know, Stephanie White takes over. She follows her. She goes over there. They're trying to bring in some veterans, surround Caitlin Clark with some players. And DeWanna Bonner just wasn't happy. And she, was a quote-unquote healthy scratch, and she was sitting out. And eventually was moved to Phoenix. And it was quite clear that it was animosity. And whether or not it stretched beyond, building around Caitlin Clark or building up this storyline about Caitlin Clark, and that remained to be seen. That was actually the inaugural year. Her rookie year. So she goes to Phoenix. She plays. She joins her partner, Alyssa Thomas, and it's just kind of grown from there. With Sophie Cunningham being the protector of, if you will, for Caitlin Clark, and so the first meeting this week. There was a little bit of a tussle, and DeWanna Bonner was pointing, like vehemently pointing. So Sophie Cunningham decided to be facetious and snarky about it, and she just kept pointing and didn't stop pointing, mocking her. And then after everyone was separated, Sophie Cunningham just kept walking around the court, the back court, or through the key over to the corner, and she just kept pointing. And then she stopped and just held her hand up with her finger pointed. So it was somewhat of what we've seen the last year and a half with Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark when they were both out and injured, and they would mock people, they'd mock the refs, they'd mock opposing players, and and the crowd's going to eat it up. And of course, traveling, Caitlin Clark has a fan club across the league, so those fans are going to eat it up as well. So it sort of boiled to a head in the first meeting. That was Monday. Last night was the rematch, and there you would think with the referees under so much scrutiny that they would have their eye on what was taking place and sort of take control. And I always say, I'm always the one that's saying, hey, the people that are saying, hey, we need to get in, you need to be in control of this game. Well, you can't get control of an immediate action that takes place, but if they would have sort of put their foot down in the first game and have been doing it early on, that they're not going to stand for a little bit extra, maybe last night wouldn't have happened. And then it did.
So give me your view of what Alyssa Thomas did. Was that a throat punch? Did she knee her in the groin? How vicious was the action?
I didn't see the knee. I watched every angle. I think she was simply falling. Yeah, I don't know if you can kind of control a knee to anywhere as you're falling. There was a scramble for the ball. Okay, and the reason there was a scramble is because Caitlin Clark tripped on herself. She fell. It was almost like there was an invisible something that tripped her at the free throw line. Nobody tripped her. Nobody pushed her. Nobody touched her. She just clumsily fell. I'm not calling her clumsy, but she fell. As she fell, everyone was going for the ball. Alyssa Thomas comes in. She fell on top of her to go for the ball. At that moment, it was a basketball play. Now, if you watch the replay from the baseline, she sort of puts her fist down on Caitlin Clark's arm, and it conveniently, as if it were to slip. So if you watch it in fast speed, in regular speed, it looks as if she just came down, put her fist down to brace herself, and it went into her throat on accident. But there was no reason, first of all, to make a fist. I don't know who makes a fist when you're coming down in emotion on somebody, like purposely, and to stop yourself. You're probably going to naturally put your hand out. The only people that are taught as you're falling, going down, not to put your hand back is when you're sliding into second base because it could bust your wrist. That's why everybody, you see them hold their batting glove as they're sliding, so they won't put their hand down. But Alyssa Thomas came down. She put her fist into Caitlin Clark's throat. Now, prior to that, Caitlin Clark had went to the back, got a wrap for her back, came back into the game, and then in the third quarter, she left the game with a back injury and didn't return. Now, I don't know whether or not where that stemmed from. It was obviously aggravated in the first quarter before the incident with Thomas, and we know that this was an ongoing issue early in the season. We also know that at one point the team said she will be on the injured list every single game as probable. That way they don't get in trouble masking it as a load management if they don't want to play her.
Willie Ramirez, Ball is Life, Cofield and Company, ESPN Las Vegas, insider when it comes to the WNBA. Aces have a game tonight against the Wings, who've given them a lot of trouble. In fact, beat them 10 days ago by 30. So last night and today exploded. Mainstream media was all over this. We've got cuts from pretty much every, big-time TV talking head about the issue. I think the other issue, in conjunction with, seeing Clark getting a little bit manhandled last night, was this poster that came out. And I think that's actually bigger than the fist last night. It just seems like the WNBA does not have much organization or forethought on what they're putting out promotionally, and there are a lot of people who think that Caitlin Clark isn't promoted as much as she should be. How do you view her?
Sub note real quick. The WNBA came out today and suspended Alyssa Thomas for one game, and they escalated it to a flagrant 2, just so we know here.
Yeah, we announced that about 15 minutes ago, but it's important in this conversation. You're right. Alyssa Thomas is going to pay a penalty, and I will guarantee you that most of the people who are really mad about the action last night are not going to be satisfied with a one-game suspension. I am. Right. I think that's fine.
Yes, it is. All right, the poster, I agree, but there has to be a side note to this. So, yes, you would think she should be on the poster considering – and it's just no knock to Rickea Jackson, but Rickea Jackson's on the poster. If you're going to put Rickea Jackson on the poster, and I think Sophie Cunningham is the Fever player that's on there, you're going to put them on there. Why is it Caitlin Clark? But
Angel Reese, and Paige Beckers are also on there.
Okay, so if we're going to ask why isn't Caitlin Clark on there, why aren't we asking where is Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird? Diana Taurasi, all-time scoring leader, Sue Bird, all-time assist leader. Where are they?
Right. But as you and I go round and round on this oftentimes, people have pointed that out, but no one cares about Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. It's a league of now, and this is the biggest face they've ever had in the WNBA. So the casuals that I mentioned are going to latch on to that. But you're right. I don't get the rhyme or reason behind this poster. They so royally screwed this up, and it seems to be par for the course with the WNBA.
Yeah, and you know what it almost seems like at times? It almost seems as if the WNBA is trying to play the role of these clickbait websites trying to spark conversation on purpose. Yes. There's no way that they thought in their mind, we're going to put this poster out and nobody's going to say anything or notice it. Instead, they're going to go, you know what, let's leave her off of it so everybody's talking about it. Okay. So it's almost as if they operate, their marketing team is totally different than, there are social media teams that are completely different from a lot, I know Yahoo Sports. I've spoken with the WNBA reporter is top notch, Cassandra Negley. She is fantastic. But her and I have talked about their social media team and how they clickbait and use quotes. They took a couple of years ago a quote of mine, a quote of Paige Beckers to me when I asked her about her mental health coming out of college, going into the pros at her introductory news conference. And that was her phrase where she said, comparison is the thief of joy. Yahoo Sports put a graphic out that said Paige Beckers in being compared to Caitlin Clark. That's not what was said because I asked the question. So it's almost as if their social media team is falling in line with all these other social where they got to get clicks, they got to get people talking about. They don't need to do stuff like that to get people talking about anything. They need to market. In regards to they don't care about, nobody's talking about Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. If that's the case, then why are we celebrating 30 years? Because 30 years means 30 years of building up to where we're at now. So you have to talk about the history if you're going to talk about the future. Otherwise, let's not even talk about it at all.
Willie Ramirez, Ball is life. Cofield and company is covering the Aces game tonight. I got a minute left. Wings have been a really tough matchup. I think the two previous meetings were 8-point win for the Wings, 30-point win for the Wings. What has to change this time for Las Vegas to get the victory?
They need defense. They need to get back on defense. They need to, and they need to create space for Asia Wilson. New York did a great job of bottling her up in the paint where she thrives and gets a lot of her points, or can at least get a rebound. So if somebody's missing a shot, she's in there. But that's what New York did really well the other night. You're talking about Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones controlling it. Jessica Shepard's a fantastic player. The Wings have come together nicely since a rough start. Ever since Jose Fernandez called them a selfish group in the locker room, that team's been absolutely wild. So I'm looking forward to a little bit of an offensive explosion tonight.
You and I talked about that, whatever it was, 6 weeks ago, and we were like, hey, maybe he's losing the team. But no, he got it together. He got Maddie Siegrist, who you pointed out was maybe the one complaining about playing time, and look at how they're playing, and they're really dangerous in that game tonight. All right, Willie, we'll enjoy the game, and we'll be watching you up on Twitter, and we'll be looking for the stories, especially the Kobe story at Ball is Life.
Steve, I appreciate it. Hey, Jeff, it was good talking to you, buddy.
Yeah, well, he wanted to get a word in edgewise. I kept brushing him off. We're going to get into this more later on. I'm going to drop this bomb real quick. One thing that does disturb me about the Fever is, and I actually, this is something to examine. While people believe, like Jason Whitlock, who I like the angle he's taking here. It's so trolly on Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White. While people believe that the issue on the team is Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark, I think there's other issues, and that is, aside from Sophie Cunningham, I never see anyone come to Caitlin Clark's aid, and I've called out Aaliyah Boston multiple times, who is 6'4", 250 pounds, and maybe she's just a gentle soul. I swear to you, if I was a big, Alyssa Thomas would have taken my knee right to her face. Like it would have been like MMA. I would have run across the court and buried her. She wouldn't have finished the game. Now that sounds like that is vicious action and it's over the top. It's your teammate. And while, again, I didn't think the fist was that vicious, Caitlin Clark has been thrown around like a rag doll. I think the league mostly believes that they have permission from the rest of the Fever players to do whatever they want to Caitlin Clark. The way they protect her is weak sauce. And later on, I'm going to tell you, and it's going to be much later, the Spurs in the draft sent a message for all these teams in the league who are like, oh, Wemby's skinny, we're going to beat the crap out of him. Go and do a little research. See who they picked up in the draft. Because there's a body type they picked up, and that Wemby stuff, beating up Wemby, the Spurs are like, no way. Nope. And I don't know why the Fever have had a chance now for 2+ seasons to build some sort of intimidating force around Caitlin Clark. Listen, Sophie Cunningham, nice lady, funny, she's mean. She also weighs 113 pounds.
Now back to Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
My Lord, there's so much going on. We didn't need another Caitlin Clark story. How about this? The Left for Dead A's. Well, I was ranting and raving. Jeff was getting on him about, hey,
look at that.
You got to freaking win some of these games against the lowly Giants. You can't get swept by the Giants last night. 2 home runs in the 9th for the Giants. And Alvarado blew it. Well, the A's middle relief blew the lead today. They had a 2-1 lead, and all of a sudden it was 6-2 in the 7th. Now we're top 9, and the A's have stormed back with 7 runs. They've got, 4 more in the 9th, and really just a long rally. Jonah Heim single, Larry Butler single, Little Max Muncy single, 9-6. Now, here's the question. Who the hell closes? They need to put up.
Get 3 outs. Get 3 outs and only giving up 2 runs. Find a way.
They got to get to 12 or 13 runs. Who is coming in? So far they've used.
Well, Hardleaf is the guy who's bailed him out in this game today.
Well, he's pitched 2+.
Yeah, he's not staying out there probably.
And or are you trying to establish that, hey, Alvarado is the closer? I don't care that he gave up 2 home runs last night. Let's get him back out there.
Probably. I have no idea. I know
the worst part. The worst part. Boy, I can't wait till the A's are on the ground here, because I think they believe they've had rough treatment. They've actually had no coverage, so really no one has gotten on them about baseball on the field. Very few, mainstream media people. Anyone going to mention that Joel Kuhnel went to the Brewers, and the Brewers are like, we'll mix him in our closer mix. He's got 2 saves with the Brewers, and they just dumped him.
Well, Milwaukee does a. I'll invoke a phrase that I used a lot when I was in Missouri. There was the Cardinals devil magic back in the day, Cofield.
Okay. I thought you were going to go a different route.
The Brewers have that devil magic now, where it always seems like they turned Andrew Vaughn into a guy who couldn't even play on the White Sox into a OPS guy over 1,000 last year.
Look at Kyle Harrison.
Kyle Harrison's awesome.
Right.
They just find a way.
I thought you were going Astros spin rate, which I thought meant code word for something else.
Oh no, no, I was not going that route.
Although I don't think you'd get the immediate effect. And guess what? Joel Kuhnel doesn't need it because he already throws 99 miles an hour. But when I've seen that the last week or so, I'm like, come on, they bailed on him.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they close with. We'll keep you updated as the A's are playing the finale in this series against the Giants. There's a lot going on today. I'm gonna leave it like this for now. For 2 weeks, if you listen during the Stanley Cup, I had a constant theme. The evil umpire stuff about VGK was completely ridiculous. If you know who the owner of the Canes is. And I don't think anyone in this market had heard the name Tom Dundon until Steve Cofield talked about him every friggin' day. And I'm telling you, I was right. I tried to tell everyone. We'll get you updated on what's happening with the Blazers, which, by the way, if you're thinking, who cares about the Blazers and the NBA, that doesn't affect us, it could. We have expansion on the horizon. But up next, we continue on the NBA. We're going to go down to Miami, find out from one of the guys on the ground there, Alex Donno, about the Giannis trade. Also, there was a big hockey trade, right? Brady Tkachuk down there now with the Panthers, and World Cup fever is going crazy in Miami. So we'll get a report out of Miami. But good show. Continuing here over the next 2.5 hours, Justin Watkins, voice of reason, our legal insider, our fight insider as well. I'm going to tell you about a couple of weird fight stories with Justin Watkins coming up in about 15 minutes.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, rolling on. I guess we're keeping up the theme that we started last week of we were doing Big City Friday, hitting all the cities around the World Cup and celebrating how cool our big cities are, while a lot of people in this country whine about big cities because they don't go to. International travelers freaking love it, and we know international travelers have always loved Miami. There's so many good stories going on in Miami. We'll get to the World Cup in a couple of minutes. It's Parles, it's Cofield. Alex Donno, who's done radio down there for a long time in South Florida, does Locked On Canes, Locked On ACC, Miami Hurricanes post-game action on WQAM is up with Cofield and Company. Alex, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really well. This has been an eventful South Florida summer, and it's been an eventful week. I mean, the Florida Panthers making moves, the Miami Heat making moves. This has really been an awesome week so far, and, of course, the World Cup in South Florida as well. I love it.
So give me your reaction and the local reaction on the Giannis trade.
I mean, like anything else, Steve, there are always going to be some Heat fans who, and really, I think this is actually probably coming more from Heat outsiders than it is from Heat fans. The majority of Heat fans, they appreciate the move. I know that there are some people that say maybe they gave up too much, which you're always going to hear when you pull off a blockbuster trade like this. You hear that a lot from the national media. But I do think, Steve, that this is being painted by some folks in a bit of an exaggerated way, because they make it sound like Miami traded their entire starting lineup for Giannis. I mean, technically they only traded one starter, Tyler Hero, who is always injured. I mean, he can never get through a full season and rarely a full postseason. So, yeah, they gave up some important role players. They gave up a lot of draft picks, but I think the bottom line is this team was really stuck in neutral for the past several years. Like the final couple of years that Jimmy Butler was here, and then, the couple of years since, they've been a play-in team for the past 4 years. They've essentially had the same core, and that core doesn't have a superstar or hadn't had a superstar to this point. I think we all know the NBA, probably more than any other major sports league in this country, is a superstar-driven league, and it's really hard. And actually the Heat punched above their weight a couple times with Jimmy Butler and got to the NBA Finals. Eric Spoelstra gets a lot out of his team, but I think that this team without Giannis Antetokounmpo had a definite ceiling, and that ceiling was below championship level. So now they've got Giannis. They had to give up some parts to get him. But I do really, when you have Pat Riley and the Heat's front office with an opportunity to find some low-cost role players, they're primarily looking, of course, at shooters. What they did in the, their second-round NBA draft pick and their free agent pickup where they picked up a former Miami Hurricane guard, Trey Donaldson. They're clearly going for players who were in college for like 4 or 5 years and have a little bit more maturity and experience. So they definitely has a plan, and at least you have Giannis Antetokounmpo with Bam Adebayo. I think the Heat will at least give themselves an opportunity to be in the mix for a top 4 seed in the East and, possibly contend for a late playoff run or even championships, because they were not in that mix with the way this team was constructed before that trade.
Well, Alex, you kind of just answered where I was going to go next, where the Knicks, the Celtics, the Pacers, and Miami, that feels like the top 4 moving forward in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and I think another underrated part of this move is, if Giannis hadn't come to the Heat, he was going to go to Boston by all accounts. So it's like you kind of killed 2 birds with one stone in this one, because if it had been the Celtics who acquired, Giannis, and, they would have had to give up Jaylen Brown apparently, but, it seems like Giannis would have given them an upgrade no matter what. I mean, you keep one of your chief rivals in the East from getting better in Boston. You make this move, and at least now it seems like the Heat can be in the same stratosphere with the New York Knicks, because that wasn't true this past season, but maybe it can be true now. So it really is important because, the Heat have been barely a playoff caliber team, a play-in caliber team for the past few years. So, yeah, you're to your point exactly. It looks like they're at least now going to be among those teams, fighting for the top couple of seeds.
Man, Cleveland, throw Cleveland in there as well as probably the big
five
moving forward.
Yeah.
For the East. I'm still not buying Detroit, even with them being the 1 seed last year. Alex, just what else do the Heat need to do this offseason? And also, too, what other offseason storylines are you looking at? Because the Hornets and the Timberwolves made a huge trade earlier today with LaMelo Ball going west to Minneapolis.
Yeah, I think for me, the Heat are going to try to find either. It could be young players, it could be older players. There have been some links possibly to Klay Thompson, Chris Middleton, maybe reunion with Giannis. I guess I got to throw this out there. Not that I expect it's going to happen, but you're naturally going to see some possible links to LeBron James coming back to Miami again. I don't know how much of this stuff is realistic, but really, to me, it's just kind of about filling your final roster spots, whether it be with mid-level exception money or with some, close to veteran minimum type of contracts out there. Because, I think the Heat seem to have their core, right now with Giannis and Bam and Davion Mitchell at the point, Andrew Wiggins at small forward. We'll see what happens with Norman Powell, who has a player option. They seem to have kind of their core starting 5 mostly together, but you need role players, you need shooting. I think that's what they look for the rest of this offseason.
Talking Miami sports here on Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas with Alex Donno. All right, blockbuster moves in South Florida. Giannis to the Heat, Kachuk, the other one, to the Panthers in the immediacy. Who has a better shot to win their respective title?
I go the Florida Panthers all the way. That this past season, 25, 20, 26 was Murphy's Law. I mean, anybody who could have possibly got injured this past year for Florida. And I almost kind of wonder if it could be a blessing in disguise that they didn't make the playoffs, because I just think when you make it to 3 consecutive Stanley Cup finals, they won 2 of them. They lost the first of those, as you guys know very well. But when you make it to 3 consecutive Stanley Cup finals, I think it really does take a physical toll, and I think they paid the price for that this past year. But now that, superstars like Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk are going to be a little bit more rested, hopefully, and healthy for the upcoming season, I really think that, Bill Zito, the Panthers GM, sees an opportunity for this team to be right back near the top of the NHL, if not the very top of the NHL again. And what we've learned about Bill Zito, Bill Zito, the Florida Panthers general manager, has kind of operated like a younger version of Pat Riley. Riley just made his big move with Giannis, but things have been pretty quiet for the Heat and superstars in recent years, where the Panthers seem to make moves like this every single offseason and almost every single trade deadline. And so when they had that opportunity to go and trade for Brady Tkachuk, which in a vacuum I think would be a very good move no matter who your team is, but I think it's an even better move for Florida when you have the opportunity of Brady to probably play on the same line as Matthew Tkachuk, to have them probably with Sam Bennett as the center anchoring that second line. It's really going to make Florida's second line one of the most dangerous in the NHL once again. And, of course, Matthew and Brady have been playing, hockey since they were growing up, playing pond hockey and roller hockey or whatever. So they have that chemistry. We saw that with the U.S. Olympic team. So I think there's no doubt that was a huge move that's going to make this team better and contend. So I would feel a lot more confident about the Panthers, not to mention we have the proof of concept with them having just won 2 straight Stanley Cups in recent memory. I'd be pretty confident, Steve, that if I had to put my money on one or the other, the Heat or the Panthers to win a championship, as much as I appreciate Giannis, I'd probably go in with the Panthers to get that done.
Another Miami story, and I know this one was pretty sizzling a couple of months ago when the NFL basically said, we don't want to come to Miami anymore because we don't like the stadium setup and how they've changed the outskirts of the stadium. If you ask the average fan down in Miami and South Florida, what's better for the area, the World Cup or Super Bowl?
I think a lot of folks in the area 3 weeks ago would have said Super Bowl, but I think now that, South Florida and most of this country has caught World Cup fever, and you've had some amazing games here already. Unfortunately, we didn't have the alien invasion that we were promised yesterday at the stadium between Brazil and Scotland. That didn't happen, but it was a great 3-0 win for Brazil. Regardless, I think people might say World Cup, and I think it's very odd, and I don't fully understand why the NFL made the decision that they did, that this stadium is not eligible for Super Bowls. I guess it has a lot to do with the Formula One track, taking away parking. Miami just hosted a national championship game at that stadium a few months ago, and that event went very well. They're hosting big World Cup games. They do host a Formula One race every year, which I cannot afford to go to. The prices of those Formula One tickets are even more than World Cup tickets, I think, and they host a big tennis event there, and it's all at that same complex. It seems like, Stephen Ross, who owns the Dolphins and owns that stadium, is probably doing okay financially, even without Super Bowls, because they host enough big events there that I don't think he's hurting for cash or anything like that. And I think seeing how fun these World Cup games have been, probably a lot of South Floridians are now saying, okay, it's not so bad to be able to host events like this.
Let's spend these last 3 minutes with Alex Donno, who does Locked On Canes on the Miami Hurricanes. One, what shot does Miami have at having the Heisman winner?
I think you've got 2 viable options, which actually you have to wonder, if you do have 2 viable options, do they take votes away from each other? Because when you think about Malachi Toney, and I know that this award, it usually goes to quarterbacks or, a unicorn like Travis Hunter who played 10 positions. So it's not that easy for a receiver to get it, but Toney does so many different things. He catches passes, he throws passes, he runs. So Malachi Toney, who comes off a 1,200-yard receiving season and double-digit touchdowns last year. One of the more exciting players in the country. I think he could be in the mix for the Heisman. And then, of course, Darian Mensah, Miami's transfer quarterback from Duke, who, put up just monstrous numbers with the Blue Devils last year, just under 4,000 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So, if Miami contends the way people expect them to contend this year, you'd usually think if you have a quarterback who's putting up big numbers on a contending team, he's going to be in the mix. And he's got a lot of weapons to throw to, like Tony and like Cooper Barkate, who came over with him from Duke, coming off an 1,100-yard season. So, I wouldn't rule it out. Obviously there's some other top candidates out there like Dante Moore, and people will keep pushing the Arch Manning agenda, but I see no reason why Tony and Darian Mensah can't compete for that.
We got a minute left. It's funny around college football how quickly the news cycle changes, because I think Mensah, and it'll get reignited, but I think Mensah was going to be one of the real villains of college football, because for some reason people felt bad for Duke. I don't care. Mensah went where he wanted, but I think a lot of people are going to look at that as a great example of transfer portal sucking. And Sorsby has taken all the headlines now. That all said, with what's going on at the governmental level, I don't know why the feds are involved, but they're going to screw this up a lot. Have you guys talked on the podcast about the fact that, listen, Miami has aspirations. If there is going to be a Big Two and there's going to be like 40 or 50 schools in a Big Two conference, Miami wants in that. Can this legislation actually block them from doing it? We're seeing stuff about the ACC and having an inability to move to the other conferences.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the legislation passes the way it's currently written, then it seems like that would block any Big Two conference from gaining or losing teams. But I think there's going to be so much haggling at the legislation level, and who knows if this passes at all, or if it does pass, if it passes in the current form. But there's always the chance. But like you said, I know Miami is open to a move, because the university president was interviewed on WQAM about a week and a half ago, and he basically said, hey, we want to make ourselves attractive to be in the best situation possible when conference realignment happens again. So I wouldn't rule anything out. I would actually hate for Miami to be stuck in the ACC, because their TV deal is terrible. So I hope the legislation does not pass the way it's currently written.
Well, for years and years, for the audiences listening to Cofield and Company over the last 20-plus years, you probably heard Alex and I talking about the fights, about MMA. And I'll close on this one. If the UFC would actually book the fights, who is the best heavyweight in the world in MMA? Is it Josh Hokett? Right there, I said that. Is it Cyril Gane? Is it John Jones? Is it Tom Aspinall? Is it Francis Ngannou?
Oh, I think it's Francis. I mean, I think it's Francis for me, and then John Jones is right there in the mix. But, yeah, I think Francis Ngannou, to me, his power, his striking, and his evolving, wrestling and ground game, I think that he's just an absolute freak of nature. I go with Francis.
Follow Alex up on Twitter if you're an ACC fan. Locked On ACC, Locked On Canes, great guy on Miami. I hope you're doing well. It sounds like you're doing well, so thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Doing well. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Imagine if he was like, no, I'm doing terribly. I can't believe you just opened that wound, jackass. Oops. My clunky close. All right, we'll redo it. Let's do a giveaway. Smash Mouth tickets. Speaking of MMA, smashing people in the mouth, but Smash Mouth playing at the pool at the Sahara on the 4th of July. Ticketmaster.com is where you can get the tickets if you don't win these. But, Alex, check that. James has a pair of tickets. Caller 7-364-1100.
The Golden Circle Sports Bar inside Treasure Island is the ultimate spot to catch all your favorite sports on huge video walls. 55-plus TVs offering ideal views from every seat. Gourmet comfort foods, craft beers on tap, and all your favorite beverages. Plus, Treasure Island is the only place on the Strip with free parking.
Gambler's Bonus hits again. On June 14th, Betty hit 4 4s, clearing her Gambler's Bonus 4-of-a-kind bingo card for over $11,000. Betty hit big, and so can you with Gambler's Bonus. It's why you play the game.
T-Mobile has an exclusive bundle for customers 55 and up.
I'm Sarah Bowl.
Yeah, I'm Frank Bowl.
A reliable network is key for us. And with T-Mobile, it's been wonderful. And going to the 55-plus plan saved us so much money.
A lot.
And that's important. Trying to keep costs down. The home internet's been perfect. It's fast, it's quick. The setup was so easy, it took less than 15 minutes.
It was like, ta-da! If you want simplicity, coverage, reliability, you want the whole package, T-Mobile has it.
Right now, T-Mobile customers 55 and up can get 2 phone lines on America's best network, plus America's fastest 5G home internet for just $30 each.
$30 per month each line with autopay plus taxes and fees. Minimum age 55. Pricing for home internet rely on 2 lines of essentials. Choice 55. $35 connection charge per line required. Best mobile network and fastest 5G home internet based on analysis by Ookla of Speed Test Intelligence data 2H 2025. All rights reserved.
Miss a show? Check out lvsportsnetwork.com for everything ESPN Las Vegas. 1100 AM and 100.9 FM. KWWN Las Vegas. It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
All right, rolling on 4 o'clock hour. Brought to you by Battleborn Injury Lawyers. We're here at the Battleborn Broadcast Center. Another one of those days, man. There's so much cool stuff going on to talk about, argue over. You had some good explosions last week. Justin Watkins is with us. I was our vast digital crew was cutting up videos, and we posted one earlier today on the Cincinnati story, which we can revisit about Cincinnati and Sorsby. And that was 8 days ago now, and Cincinnati put out a statement about how they had no knowledge of Sorsby and his gambling. Where is the investigation? It's been 8 days. All right, we have a lot of college stuff to get to. Jeff Parles, Cofield, and Justin Watkins. We haven't really had a good chance to examine some of the changes that are coming with this legislation, but there was a change on the NCAA front, and that was with the 5-and-5 rule. What changes? Give me the positives and some of the negatives.
Yeah, so the redshirt season's out. You got 5 years to play 5. The clock starts after. If you've graduated after you've graduated or after your 19th birthday, and you've got 5 years to play 5. And I think from the NCAA's perspective, this is one of their better rules for avoiding lawsuits because, number one, on the eligibility side of things, they've won most of those on the 4-year or 5-year eligibility. They've won most of them because it is, in theory, pro-competitive behavior for them to say, people want to watch our sport because it's college-age students going against college-age students. And if we have a 35-year-old going against an 18-year-old, that we lose our audience. And so as long as we're paying all those kids and treating them all fairly as a labor market, the eligibility requirement is a pro-competitive environment. And so far, the courts have mostly bought that. So I actually think this is a rule that I'm not saying they're not going to get a lawsuit. They probably will. They're going to get a lawsuit about everything for the foreseeable future. But I think they will likely win these lawsuits. I think the 5-and-5 makes a ton of sense, and what they have to do with this 5-and-5 though is they have to take out the discretion. Where they have lost these eligibility lawsuits is when they've had these waiver, appeals and rulings, and the lawyers can simply just point to their history and go, why this guy and not this guy? Why is this guy and not this guy? And just keep pointing back and forth and saying, you can't apply your rules evenly and fairly. They're completely applied arbitrarily, and therefore our guy gets in.
So let me break in football. If you had a double injury scenario, listen, I get hurt my freshman year, I can't play. I get hurt my junior year. In the past, you could ask for extra eligibility. That's all out.
5-and-5.
So it's 5-and-5, and if you're only healthy for 4 or 3, that's what you get.
That's what you get.
That kind of sucks.
Right? The only exemptions that is under the rule as it currently is for military service, religious missions. So
BYU and Utah State benefit again.
Yeah, they're getting it.
Right.
They're the only ones with the 27-year-olds.
Why?
Well, I mean, obviously, if they
what would happen if they what would be the court case in that case?
They would challenge it on religious.
You don't have to, but you don't have to go on a mission during your 5-and-5. You could go when you're after you're 5 or up. You can't go on a mission when you're 23, 24, 25 years old.
I don't know enough about the Mormon Church and their religion to say what the implication of that is and how that works in the system. I just don't. I'm not educated enough on that. But
you mentioned BYU, Utah State. If the bevy of Jesuit schools that play basketball if they had something similar, they'd be protected?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you would have to craft a rule to ensure that a player didn't sue. Like, okay, if you just do 5-5, the first person to come back on a Mormon mission and they go, you got 3 years left. He's going to sue and say, like, you are discriminating against me based on my religion. And he would win.
Yeah.
Or she would win.
Yeah.
It's very simple, right? They would win. And so I think you have to have those exceptions for any discriminatory type of behavior. And the religion one is just an easy one to target because it is obviously prevalent in college athletics.
So on the lawsuits that are going to be filed, I saw Darren Heitner, who's very big in this as an attorney, kind of labor rights for athletes. He said more than 50 suits are going to be filed. And I would assume that's players that eligibility is up and would like a fifth year. So what's going to be their case now?
Well,
and by the way, this doesn't go into effect until what?
This comes the following year.
Okay.
So
who's suing now? Are they going to sue now for eligibility?
Sure.
On something that's coming a year from now?
Right. I think yes. The answer is going to be yes because of the one point you went to right away. It's like injuries. Like, wait a minute. It's 5. It should be 5 healthy years to play 5 years. But if they are going and this is your workforce, this is your labor force, and they get hurt on the job, especially on the job, right? They get hurt on the job, and then you're going to take away their ability to earn money for the year that they were hurt working for you on the job without collective bargaining?
Yep.
Problem.
I'm not going to name the cases, but I can come up with 2 cases where they could say, you know what? Not even my fault I was injured.
Yep.
I got misdiagnosed by your people.
That too.
I'm not losing a year because of that.
That's the one hole in this that I see, right? But some of the lawsuits we saw that were just kind of like D1 AA, D2, D3, it's 5-5. You got 5 years to get through your 5 years of eligibility, assuming they're healthy years, assuming you're not in military service, assuming you're not on a religious mission. There are some very limited exceptions, but for the most part, what they're trying to do is take the discretion out of it because their discretion has killed them in courts.
Okay. Now, Sportico had a story today. This is related. NCAA's new 5-year rule could sack antitrust and eligibility lawsuits. So what about the antitrust part of it?
Yeah, so that's what we were talking about whether or not this is pro-competitive behavior or anti-competitive behavior. So I think this is the one time in their courts where the courts have looked at it. The cases they have lost were based on discretion. All the other cases they have won, basically the court has said, we don't think that this is an antitrust violation. We think that limiting eligibility to 5 years or 4 years, as the case may be, is actually pro-competitive behavior and is better for the industry that they have developed. So I don't think the antitrust challenges are where you're going to see it. I think it's going to be on the waivers that should be granted in situations in which, especially where a player was hurt while performing activities for the industry.
Justin Watkins, as we're talking college sports and these rule changes, you guys want the changes, you want guardrails, so here we go. Here are some of them, 5-5. On conference realignment, this legislation that is being worked on, I'm seeing people around the Pac-12, but especially the Mountain West Conference. We just talked to a Miami expert because there's something ACC related. Is there something in this legislation that would stop conference realignment? But more importantly, if you have dreams of going up to be in a bigger conference with the bigger revenue generating conferences and schools, you're blocked?
So I'm going to start with the caveat of this. I only have access to what is publicly disclosed out there that was from the bill hearing, and I have no connections whatsoever anywhere in D.C. that could get my hands on any sort of draft proposals that are on the back end. And having served in the legislature, that's what really is going on, right? There's red lines going back and forth. There's negotiations going on. So the bill version that everybody else behind the scenes is talking about or in the trenches is talking about is probably a different version than what I've reviewed. But what I have reviewed is inconsistent with what is the fodder out there on Twitter, which is this. Everybody who's in the Power 4 will be frozen in the Power 4. Everybody who's in the G6 will be frozen in the G6, and there will no longer be any conference alignment or anybody brought up from the G6. That's not how I read the bill. I read the bill that says the Power 4 is locked from the Power 4. You cannot go from Power 4 to Power 4. That's how I read it. But you could go from G6 to Power 4. That's how I read it. As long as your power or your G6 conference is not above $700 million in revenues a year. That's where they like sort of draw the line between P4 and G6. And so I don't think it's correct to say that the G6 cannot move up to Power 4. And I have seen the congressman out of the Eastern District of Washington, so Washington State's congressman, consistently tweet on there, that's incorrect, that's not in the bill, that's incorrect. And so now he hasn't gone to the next step and say what's in the bill, I assume, because that the red lines are still firing back and forth. You don't want to put out there something that's in the bill that's no longer going to be in the bill, or something that you believe is going to be in the bill but it has not been introduced yet. You get yourself in trouble there. You look silly, so you don't want to do that. But I do think it's right to say that bill does not say what people think it says right now.
It's interesting because if let's just go off what you said at the beginning there, where you interpret it as that not going to hurt potential elevation, but would basically keep everyone in their Power 4 conferences, which then my brain immediately goes to, okay, all those ACC schools that have been annoyed for a half decade now are probably going to, lack of a better phrase, mad dash at this point to try to get into the SEC or the Big Ten.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think that's right. I will say this. If the bill says what people think it's going to say, it may work its way through the Senate, right? Because the Senate they represent the whole state. And you got the Power 4 wants this. So almost every state has got a Power 4. A minority of states doesn't have a Power 4, right? So it'll work its way through the Senate. But when you get it over to the House of Representatives, now I got 435 districts. And when you start, you look at those Power 4 schools, those, we'll call it 80 schools. It's less than that. It's 70, 68, I think. 68 schools. Well, that's only 68 of 435 districts. You get everybody else going, wait a minute. These guys destroyed college sports, and now we're going to reward them with, like, protecting this damaged system that they created and protecting their revenue and protecting their structure and ensuring that nobody else gets a seat at the table. My little guy, Troy University, we were just in the College Baseball World Series. We want a seat at the table. I'm not voting for this. And I think if I represented a district that was not a Power 4, no way you're getting this from me if it doesn't allow me to elevate, and if it puts this fence around the P4 and enshrines them in permanency, cements them as the deal makers for the rest of time. You just cannot have that system.
I've argued forever that Nevada and Montana and Idaho and New Mexico, amongst others, that are not included in all these riches. All you politicians, you were a public servant, you better fight like hell, because if you're shutting your state out forever, that's it. Get out of office. This is important. This is state funding. All right, let's hold it there. Let's think about it during the break. We have a great giveaway that we're qualifying people for. Every week we're giving away a trip to celebrate the 4th of July, 250th birthday, and it's all about America, right? A lot of these areas we're talking about, we're giving away trips to the Grand Canyon and Sedona in a trip, Boston, Philadelphia, Yellowstone National. This week's trip is Boston, Philadelphia. All you got to do to qualify to potentially get drawn is send in the code word to 702-364-1100. That's text in the code word to 702-364-1100. If you don't want the trip, you get $3,000 cash. But your way to qualify at 702-364-1100 is to send in the code word. The code word is freedom. There's an America theme here. Freedom. If you don't know the word freedom, if you like George Michael, he had a song. Freedom, right? Freedom is the code word, 702-364-1100.
Centennial Subaru, a short drive from everywhere.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
Glad we had those 4 minutes to take a breath, not start yelling and screaming about the feds being involved. In college football, we may have time before the end of the era with Justin Watkins to get back to that. Obviously, the concern on the G6 Power 4 thing, there needs to be upward mobility, potentially if schools achieve, get funding, and want to move up to Power 4. But let's put that to the side for a second, because this show is all about combat. And for a long time, we would watch videos on the show and, hey, what's legal, what's not, what's an appropriate response, what's not. I don't think what Terry and Arnold did is legally an appropriate response. He's a good player for the Lions. Jeff, this story basically comes down to Terry and Arnold feels like he got stuff stolen from him at an Airbnb, and he decided to kind of take the law into his own hands. Now, what happened from there?
Sent a few people over. I believe the phrase "pistol whipped" was thrown around a bunch in the article.
I think they were actually videoing,
and they were videoing
the retribution so he could watch.
Yeah, so
he's facing some serious charges.
Yeah, he could get up to lifetime in prison based off the felony charges that were levied against him.
Yeah, I mean, this is a crazy story. He gets an Airbnb. The Airbnb gets burglarized, and about $250,000 he alleges worth of stuff, cash and other property, gets taken from the Airbnb. He believes that the people who rented out the Airbnb were all part of this big conspiracy in order to have him robbed. So he lures them, or he has people lure them out, and then kidnap them, beat the crap out of them, detain them, rough them up, while he's watching, so he can't even claim ignorance of the situation. The feds not only confirmed that they had nothing to do with the burglary, but they have him on so many different charges because it's a conspiracy, because there is kidnapping component to it, a detainment component to it, because there is a streaming and electronic component to it, and a battery, that these are felony charges. If convicted, he absolutely will serve time, and if he's convicted of all the charges, he will serve a significant amount of time, years and years of time. So, yeah, very serious and kind of a wild set of circumstances. Like, it's crazy what happens in these situations with some of these young athletes, or young people that come into a whole bunch of money. It doesn't matter that they're athletes; could be anybody, and they don't, they
the
laws
the brashness and the arrogance, though, to think, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to video it, and no one's going to find out. Like, what are you doing? Talk about putting yourself in harm's way. So, a big story in San Francisco has been the way the Giants handled their pride caps, and then 3 of the pitchers wrote religious verses on the pride caps. And then when the Giants had a chance to speak on it, Buster Posey came out, and we'll get to his end of it, but he didn't really say anything. He said, I just want to talk baseball. So this has been pretty heavily debated, and it's a big deal in the San Francisco area. Well, Aubrey Huff, former major leaguer, played for the Giants time with the Padres too, right? Right.
I remember him on the Rays.
He was on a lot of teams.
Okay.
I think he played for 5 teams.
So he was putting out a bunch of messages yesterday, and using words like, pardon my French, like queer and fudge doing this, and just going after people. And so actually, a guy we had as a guest on yesterday, Jason Page, said, "What a sad, pathetic man Aubrey Huff is." So Huff saw this, and Huff sent back a message and said, "Hey, Jason, DM me and I'll give you my exact address, and I will welcome you to meet me anytime and attempt to say that to my face." And then went on and on about he's old, he's got glasses, blah, 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 blah. What sort of legal protection does someone have when they say, hey, you know what? Come on, come to my house and let's see what happens. And if something happens, what sort of legal protection do they have? We've talked about these challenges in public, and different states have different laws, right? Some have some antiquated laws where, hey, if both sides approve and, hey, we're going to fight in the street, let's go, it's legal.
Yeah, we're going to take this outside kind of deal. Yeah. For the vast majority of states, you cannot legally agree to, an unsanctioned fisticuffs. You cannot do it. There's no legal mechanism by which you guys can say we are going to fight this out absent a sanctioned event. Now, the real question is, like, okay, let's say Jason goes there and says, "You're a sad, pathetic man," and then Aubrey Huff takes that and assaults or takes it to physical violence. Who's in the wrong? Are those fighting words? And from a legal perspective, those are not fighting words. Fighting words where you expect a physical retaliation are like the most offensive words. And the legal basis for it, that the only two that I can even become aware of is the N word and the F word, that legally have been found to be fighting words, that when you uttered that into somebody's face in front of them right there, that you should have known that would elicit a physical reaction to what you have just said. But the 99.999999% of all other words that does not justify you in assaulting somebody because they say something about you that you do not like.
Dangerous game being played.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
It might not be that guy who goes after him.
Yes.
Could be someone else. And listen, I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know what happened with this. I don't know if Aubrey Huff sent the information on. I think he lives in Newport Beach, or maybe he's in Solana Beach. I know that's where his kids are. Jason Jagger, his ex-wife, I think is there. I don't know. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if someone else took him up on the offer. But it's very interesting. And this is not unusual on the internet.
Yep.
I mean, what was the story? It's probably about 8 years ago now. There was a fight going back and forth where meet me in Temecula.
Yeah, they met in the middle. Meet me in Temecula. Yeah, I remember
over like a Kobe Bryant argument.
Yeah.
But I mean, dangerous game to play with. There's a lot of unstable people out there, and you can believe you're super unstable and you're tough. There's someone out there who can.
Well, the interesting part
meet you
of
in
that
the middle.
question would be, let's say that were to happen. Jason goes out there, opens the door, and he says, "You're a sad, pathetic man," right? And then Aubrey Huff takes a swing on him, and Jason was ready for it and beats the crap out of him. Could somebody make the argument, Jason, you knew what was going to happen, and you antagonized him. Yes, your words themselves were not fighting words to the general population, but you knew they were going to trigger him. In fact, that's why you went down there, is to engage in this. And he told you those words triggered him. You went to invite that physical violence. You invited the physical violence so that you could exert your revenge. I mean, I don't know Jason. I don't know if he's physically capable of that. But let's just say there's somebody who is very confident in their combat skills, and they take somebody up on this offer to sort of elicit that response. I think then it can murky up the waters depending on what kind of combat training they have, what kind of confidence they have, and the situation of the knowledge of what that other person's instability is.
It's Cofield and Company. Justin Watkins, attorney here on CNC. We're at Battleborn. We're at the Battleborn Broadcast Center. I'm going to go back to the Arnold thing for a second to set up a little more conversation. Nothing comes of this, or it's pled down severely. The NFL's like, let's go. Terry Arnold, you can play this year. We're looking at a situation where Terry Arnold could play this year. And in effect, Brendan Sorsby has been banned by the NFL. What do you make of what the NFL did? And they did it wisely. I don't know why they're telling Adam Schefter anything, because I think some of the stuff he is saying is legally damaging, but they're not saying it. On the front end, what do you think of what happened here with the NFL and Sorsby? I guess essentially saying you didn't make a very good case, and his attorneys come back with a whole laundry list like, we've been in contact with you for months and months about this. How dare you suggest it's last minute and you didn't get the case?
So I think I'm going to surprise you a little bit by this take. I have often, over the decade more that we've been doing this show, said the NFL should not be in the legal law enforcement business. They should let law enforcement do what law enforcement does. They should let the district attorneys do what the district attorneys do. And when the person gets punished, they should honor the punishment. And when the person has served their punishment, they should be free to go play their their sport because it's simple and it's a bright line rule, and you don't get caught up in doing your own independent investigations, right? And we go back to Big Ben, and he did not get criminally prosecuted, but they did their own investigation and they suspended him anyway. And now you set up the process by saying, if it's a violent act, we're going to do our own investigation. We don't care what law enforcement does, and we're going to punish. So for the Arnold situation, I think they've set the precedent where they probably have to act, but I would argue you don't. I would argue if I'm the NFL, I do act. It's a violent act. He's been charged. I suspend until the legal process plays itself out, right? Because it's a violent act. Sorensby, who I have defended in the NCAA rules, I do not think has the right to be in the NFL because the NFL is collectively bargained and because the supplemental draft is no guarantee. And if you believe what Schefter says...
We got about 20 seconds here.
All the teams went to Goodell and said, we don't have time to vet this. Like, these are serious allegations. We're not saying never, but we need to talk. We need to investigate this and figure out whether or not we can draft this player. We can't do it on the supplemental.
Did the owners or league go to the NFLPA, which didn't they collectively bargain about the supplemental draft in every one of these agreements?
Right, but it's not a mandatory.
We'll jump off on this going to the next block. Can the NFLPA take up the case for Brendan Sorsby? Okay, because that's the discussion here, and Jeffrey Kessler is very down with that, his attorney.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
All right, rolling on here on this Thursday, a special edition of Cofield and Company at Battleborn Injury Lawyer. 766-1400 is the call from anywhere in the state of Nevada number. In the north, because we're on ESPN Reno, 775-766-1400. So we were just getting into the Brendan Sorsby case. If he's got a case with the NFL, they have basically blocked him by saying, hey, we're not going to hold a supplemental draft. I am disappointed, again, that a lot of radio hosts and media people don't run any of this by attorneys. I heard one of the ESPN national guys on Tuesday hammering on Jeffrey Kessler. Like,
good luck.
He's
the
like
best
one,
at what he does.
One of the most successful labor attorneys and battling the powers that be that we've seen in the last 30 or 40 years. Kessler, on behalf of Sorsby, wants to make the claim of what? Because, one, he thinks that the NFLPA, this is a negotiated thing when you come up with the CBA.
Yep.
When it comes to the supplemental draft, the NFL can't just say, hey, we're not going to do it because we don't feel like it.
Yeah, I mean, he feels like it's a violation of the CBA, and he's going to bring a lawsuit on behalf of Sorsby. And, the media members out there are like, he can't do that. He's not
part of the union.
It's like, stop. Please, trust me. Kessler is not bringing a lawsuit that's going to kick out because his client doesn't have standing, okay?
Remember, this is not Ken Paxton.
Yes.
This is a top-of-the-heap real attorney.
Yeah. Well, and on top of it, the CBA covers prospective members, that future members, people who will become members. That's the whole point of what a collective bargaining agreement is, so that when you join into the industry, you are part of the union, you are governed by the CPA, that you had no right to negotiate, but you have the protections of. And so he absolutely has standing to file a lawsuit and arbitration and say that the CBA is being violated by the NCAA, that he will make that argument. I don't know. Like, they're going to point to precedent. They're going to say, you've never denied a supplemental draft for any other player ever before, and this has happened a bunch of times. And the people who go to the supplemental draft aren't coming in on winning streaks. They're not, to be held in high regard for their morality. These are the people who need a supplemental draft because they've done some stuff wrong in their life. And this is just another one of those situations. I think the difference here for me is Kessler keeps pointing to, we told the NFL we might be doing this, and we asked what the process was like, and they gave us this application. Okay, but it doesn't change the fact that you didn't submit the application until 3 days before, and you were filing and winning lawsuits against the NCAA saying in court documents he was going to play. And so up until 3 days ago, why would I, as the NFL, expend resources in investigating something that may or may not happen? We got a lot of stuff going on. I'm not. My teams aren't going to investigate Sorensby if he's not going to be part of the draft. So then you give me 3 days to tell these teams to do their investigation on gambling charges? Like, no. He can apply for the draft next year, and we'll do our vetting process just like everybody else. But we're not doing it in 3 days. You should have submitted this before. So I think the NFL is going to win, and the collective bargaining agreement will keep this out of court. It'll keep it in an arbitration process, and ultimately that's where this will be decided.
Jeff Parles across the way. It's Cofield, ESPN Las Vegas, ESPN Reno. Legal insider Justin Watkins, former public servant Justin Watkins, big college football fan Justin Watkins. We're going to get to some college football on the field in a couple of minutes, but I just want to open this discussion briefly. For weeks and weeks, I talked about Tom Dundon as being terrible for American sports. Yay, the Canes won a Stanley Cup. They won it in spite of him, and I called him a cheap ass. He's not paying Rod Brindamore the money he should be. I think the Knights should have gone out and made him an offer, made him pay Brindamore. Now we see what's happening with the Blazers. Now, there's a lot to get into here, but basic argument is City doesn't want to pay for upgrades to the Moda Center. Dundon says, hey, I bought the team. I'm putting a big investment in. I want money from you guys. So we're going to see where this goes. Here's the problem with this strong arming, because I think he has other markets in mind. We're going to take a break in a second. I think Nashville would be a target spot to go to.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, rolling on Cofield and Company here. Last 30 minutes of the show. We'll keep you updated on World Cup. My God, the Dutch in Kansas City, and I'm not even reacting to the score of the game because it's 3-1. Netherlands on top of Tunisia. In the 73rd minute, it's the crowds in Kansas City before the game and even during the game for watch parties. They've got whatever their plaza is there where they can fit a few thousand fans. You've seen the donks, the Chiefs fans who drive me nuts. They'll congregate there, and that's pretty intense, especially when things are going well for the Chiefs. It was wild today with the Dutch fans. So 3-1. 73rd minute. But I got to find a tweet that I had saved from last night on the World Cup fans, the international fans in the U.S. for this. Meanwhile, Japan and Sweden, 72nd minute, and that one is tied at 1. The tweet was basically, because, I mean, really, this event has been about, the attendance has been tremendous. I think it's already set a record for World Cup attendance, at least in this round. I don't know about overall. But fans have come here in droves. We mentioned last week that they seem to be spending a lot of money enjoying the travels in all these big cities and in between. You know, we talk about how our food prices are way up. These folks are like, I'm on vacation. I'm going to eat whatever I want. I'm going to spend whatever I need to, whatever the drinks are. Maybe FIFA's smart. Maybe they're dumb. We saw some of the beer prices, which, for those of you listening here in Vegas, you know, in Vegas we have some of the highest drink costs of any stadiums and arenas in the country. So when I see a drink at the World Cup that's like $22, $23, $24, I'm like, sounds right. We've been conditioned. We've been beaten here to think that's okay. It's really not. Yeah, I can't find that tweet. But basically, someone was saying the Europeans seem to have like 8 weeks of vacation time, endless funding. Meanwhile, Americans are at work sneaking into their company bathroom and trying to steal a little time and watch the World Cup on their phone. Which, that is a whole nother topic about our system of vacation here and what the rest of the world does. Well, I think this is a great place. We really do F our workers. I mean, we're lucky here at Lotus Broadcasting. They respect vacation, and I've been here forever. So we get pretty decent vacation time. But I can't tell you how many times over the years that I've come across international travelers. And a lot of times it's in one of the places that I really like to go to every year, and that's New Orleans. And we've had multiple people traveling internationally from the UK or somewhere in Europe or Australia, and they're like, yeah, I'm on a 3-week holiday. And you're like, 3 weeks? Like, let me squeeze out 4 days before you got to get back to work. So we're taking advantage of at least the international vacation time and getting big crowds in for the World Cup. Update, because I got to get to the big story of the day, which really took off again on sports talk shows on radio and TV, and that was the Caitlin Clark, the assault by Alyssa Thomas. I'll get to that in about 2 minutes. But I did want to get you updated on the A's because we cut out and we didn't get the A's final. This is a really big win for the A's. And while they're not having a season where they're not the Braves, they're not the Dodgers, but progress is being made and challenging for division supremacy. No matter what division it is, that's a step forward. The A's were on their way to their 5th straight loss, and it was happening in similar fashion the way it's happened much of the season. They had a 2-1 lead going to the bottom of the 6th. They gave up a 5 spot. Well, they scored 7 runs between the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. They were down 6-5 going to the 9th, and they put a 4 spot up, and none of it was done via the long ball, and this is a really good home run hitting team. A lot of it was just contact hitting, and they didn't hit 1 home run in the game. But everyone seemed to post an RBI, and they wound up winning 9-6. San Francisco's terrible. The Angels are terrible. You can't lose 5 straight. They were going to get swept by the Giants. So this is, I think, a good win in terms of the mental boost. It's good in terms of the standings. 9-6 victory, and in this case, they found someone to close the game. Last night, Elvis Alvarado couldn't do it. He gave up 2 home runs in the 9th. In this one, it looks like Barnett pitched a relatively clean final inning for his 2nd save, and he had pitched really wonderfully in the games at LVB. So we do have a WNBA game in town, and it features one of the biggest stars, well, 2 of the biggest stars in the WNBA. A'ja Wilson on the Aces side, and the Aces have other stars like Jackie Young, and Chelsea Gray is excellent. But Paige Beckers on the Dallas side, she's not even leading scorer on that team. AZ Fudd was the number 1 pick, so they're star-studded. They've buried the Aces in their first 2 meetings, winning 95-87 and 96-66. So this is a tough game. And this should be the headline today. You know, these young stars on the wing side coming in, looking for a 3rd straight win against the defending champion. That's the thing of headlines, but nope. Because as I continue to present, and I don't think it's a very controversial argument, although the gatekeepers of the WNBA will fight me on this all the time, Caitlin Clark and anything related to Caitlin Clark is the biggest story. She is the biggest star. She's the lightning rod that has helped this league rise to the stratosphere. And this is not a diss on the women who came before her or the women in the league who are outstanding. It's not a diss on A'ja Wilson. People care about Caitlin Clark for whatever reasons. We can all come up with our reasons. And if you want more proof of that, it's not a fluke. The reaction off of what happened last night, really the last couple of games with the Mercury and the Fever, again, was completely out of control. And most of this is usually reserved for the internet because there's these Caitlin Clark content creators who everything she does, they blow up. Everything that, I'll put it this way, happens to her is some sort of slight. It is the referees are screwing her. Stephanie White, the coach of the Fever, are screwing her. Her teammates are jobbing her. The league sucks. They're screwing her over. There's controversy every day. And then you've got dudes who are on media who've taken this up as their big thing. It's absolutely politicized. It's, for some reason, Caitlin Clark is right-wing media red meat. Anytime you can come up with a story where the delicate flower that is Caitlin Clark, and she's anything but anytime she's getting slighted, oh, this league. So last night, we actually have to go back a couple of games. This is a 2-game set with Phoenix in town. against the Fever, and Phoenix has DeWanna Bonner and Alyssa Thomas, and Bonner was with the Fever, and apparently last year when she decided to bail, which I think is one of the weirdest things, again, the WNBA skates on. Players in the WNBA are just like, yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. Now, it could be because they're unhappy. It could be because, well, I'm going to put it harshly because I actually think this stuff needs to stop. And I guess, love can't be stopped. But frankly, from my experience in the workplace, you shouldn't be crapping where you're eating. And I've had a couple of dalliances over the years and learned my lesson. It's not a great thing. And I know couples, eventually, a lot of people who get married, they meet at work. But it's a very iffy proposition if things go south. And, well, things went south in the past with DeWanna Bonner in relationships. But anyway, so she left. This was a case where apparently she just wasn't happy with all the drama and the pressure and maybe the social media that comes with being on the Fever and being around Caitlin Clark. So she left, and then she had some words about the Fever. She's in Phoenix. So game one, they meet up, and Bonner's doing something where she's pointing, and then Sophie Cunningham is sort of a Caitlin Clark protector, and she used to be in Phoenix. She, by the way, also had some sort of issue with, I just mentioned, crapping where you eat. She had some relationship that no one really knew about until it came out in a lawsuit with a higher-up with the Phoenix basketball operations. But anyway, so Sophie Cunningham and Bonner are going at it, and it was kind of harmless but not, and they're pointing at each other, and she's pointing, she's mocking him, and it's getting all heated. And as Willie Ramirez said about 2 hours ago, the Fever tend to have some loud people who talk a lot of trash on the bench, whatever. Well, on the other side is one of the biggest badasses in the WNBA, and she doesn't really hide the fact that she will light you up if she wants to, and that's Alyssa Thomas. So last night, loose ball, Caitlin Clark goes to the floor, Alyssa Thomas goes down, and I think she was falling down. I think she got tripped up, just like Caitlin Clark got tripped up, fell to the floor, and Alyssa Thomas decided to, as she was going down, brace her fall with a fist on Caitlin Clark's neck. Her knee came down in her midsection, but none of it looked like it had much force behind it. And frankly, if you watch the video, Caitlin Clark didn't freak out. Like, she freaks out all the time. She didn't freak out. She didn't grab her neck, like, oh, I got punched. And then it spread like wildfire for like overnight and early morning. The punch! Now, again, I didn't play sports at any sort of high level. I think a lot of us here at the station or who are listening, men and women, you play pickup basketball. I don't know, in the world of pickup or whatever level you played at, you want to stay on the floor. Things get physical. I've had people, joke that, with me locally, some of my friends that I'm, dirty as a snake, whatever you want. I'm dirty, right? And when I saw it, I was like, that wasn't a punch. I don't know what that was. But Alyssa Thomas got people all worked up. The biggest thing is it's happening to Caitlin Clark again. I don't know really what's happening, but there's physicality with her. Now, the Fever have allowed this. It's the Fever's fault that people feel like they can go after Caitlin Clark because they don't do anything about it. Sophie Cunningham's the only one who actually responds physically. And while Sophie Cunningham has a mean streak and she will get dirty, she's, 5'11" and 150 pounds? She's not. Alyssa Thomas, she's, it's funny. In the WNBA, I get a kick out of the fact, and it's really, if you want to get covered like men's sports, then height and weight should not be a big deal to have on your bio. I think Alyssa Thomas is actually listed at 6'2" and 220. She is a big lady, and she is physical. So going back to game one, you had to kind of know that something might happen in this one. It did. Should Alyssa Thomas have been ejected? Probably. Again, I didn't think it was a punch. I thought she was falling, but there's no reason to go down with a fist. The other thing is you're trying to you want to establish some sort of control in the game. You had pointing and talking and too much going on in game one. Game two, now it's blowing up. Throw her out of the game. And if you go to you could have gone to the video. I don't know that Caitlin Clark. Maybe I missed something earlier in that whole scenario that prompted the physicality. You could go review it, but you could toss Alyssa Thomas. She played 38 minutes. She played the entire game. They go on to win the game. I think it was 110-107. And man, it just freaking exploded from there. I haven't read, since the penalty came down, she got a flagrant 2 and she got a 1-game suspension. I'm guessing that this is, again, going to be red meat for people who want to back poor little helpless Caitlin Clark. And I'm joking. I'm being sarcastic. She's not. She can dish it out. but people are going to flip out. But this turned into a big deal last night and all day today. First of all, Stephanie White, the coach of the Fever, melted down after the game. And her case was, listen, you know that things were brewing in the first game. Why are you not ready, officials, to curb any of this? You don't seem prepared. And she's right. And the WNBA needs to get on these officials. They're losing control of some of these games. And in this case, it's a second meeting in a couple of days. You know something was going to happen. Now, what happens with this is you have people who outright lie. I watched a video today, and as I said many times, we have some of the cast members on from Fearless. That's Jason Whitlock's show. We know his bit. He's gotten behind Caitlin Clark. He's going with the whole heterosexual, homosexual thing, and that the league is filled with this homosexuality. They don't want heteros to thrive in the league, and they're trying to beat her up and keep her down, and that's what the league is doing. Whatever. He posted a video today where someone in the crowd was doing commentary over a sideline shot because Caitlin Clark eventually went out for a while with what was reported to be a back flare-up, and this guy's like, her back's fine. She's quitting. She's quitting. You could see nothing on video that would suggest, like, look at her face. Look at her grab her jersey. I mean, come on, guys. So the tall tales get told that way. Then you get a guy like Boomer Esiason, who is now leaning into this whole thing as well. Remember last week, as he's smirking, he's talking about the Knicks and that the players better go to the White House. And that, again, this is, a guy like Boomer. That's his red meat. He was talking on the New York sports talk station, WFAN, about Caitlin Clark and another one of these, like, she's got to just get out of here. This league is ridiculous.
You know what, if I were Caitlin Clark, I would seriously consider going to play overseas somewhere and get the royal treatment and get real money.
From the Saudis?
And I know that Caitlin makes a ton of money off the court in terms of endorsements, and rightfully so, but I think that there's a petty jealousy. She's a straight white basketball player. She is not being treated with any sort of respect whatsoever.
And that's what it is, yes. They beat up on her because she likes men and they like women, and yes, Boomer. So Boomer with a classic move by a terrible talk show host. As he's kind of hashing out his discussion, he actually knocks down his own theory in the middle of it, where he's like, she should leave to go to another country and make real money. I mean, they're making much more money now, I think. She does make a lot here in endorsements. So then your whole argument is stupid, Boomer, as you are often. Like, you started to make a case, then you knock down your own argument. He's become really insufferable, and I would say over the years, but especially of late. This also hit with Stephen A. Smith this morning as he started wagging his finger. I don't know if he was whispering here, as he often does when he's getting mad at people and he's going to get a pound of flesh, but he gave his little lecture about the WNBA not handling things the right way with its cash cow.
You're not the NBA. You don't have an 11-year, $77 billion contract. You are building the league. You just reached an incredible collective bargaining agreement, but there's still a lot more work to be done. Don't get in the way of the cash cow. But you certainly ride that tidal wave of popularity and use it to your advantage to build the game, not compromise and hurt the game.
And the league has had for a couple of years now this internal struggle with, hey, how much do we want to embrace someone who's come in and has blown up the league and helped us, but we also don't want to insult the players who have been here. Your job is to, there's one goal, promote the league. And however that's done, who cares if the players who have been here get mad? If there is jealousy, deal with it. You can deal with it with some of the justice on the floor, and when you go overboard, you get suspended a game like Alyssa Thomas did. This also comes in combination, and the WNBA leadership, I mean, let's say it. Kathy Engelbert seems like she's in over her head. She pulled that crap over the summer where she was asked about her long-term future with the league, her contract as a commissioner, and she immediately went to the card where she said, you ask male subjects that? Yeah, we do all the time. So, I mean, that's weak. That was terrible. She's come up short on so many fronts. There was the Nafisa Collier claim that in off-the-record discussions, Kathy Engelbert actually said that Caitlin Clark is lucky to be here. We're the platform. She's lucky to have this platform. I mean, just ass-backwards thinking. No other league thinks that way. The players make the money. The players drive the league. You glamorize the players. You promote the players. You don't let your ego get in the way. You're basically, as a commissioner, you're there at the behest of the owners. Maybe that's an ownership take around the WNBA. I doubt it, because a lot of the owners actually own NFL teams, like Mark Davis. He gets it, right? Is Mark Davis jealous of his players? No, actually, Mark Davis, to a fault, loves his players so much, they celebrate the players in the NFL. These are NBA owners. They get it. So this is league leadership. And then the other thing they come out with today was they have some sort of poster, and they're doing a 30th year celebration for the WNBA, and they put this like ham-handed poster together with a bunch of different people. And while Diana Taurasi's not on there, and Sue Bird is not on there, Angel Reese is on there, Paige Beckers is on there, Caitlin Clark is not. Oh, Jesus, here we go, right? Another slight against Paige Beckers and Colin Cowherd, who does not cover the WNBA. He doesn't care about the WNBA. He's got a take on this, because you have to have a take on it, because when you watch from the outside, you're like, what is wrong with this league?
The WNBA, they just keep driving into a wall at full speed with Caitlin Clark. They now have a commemorative poster of 30 years of the WNBA. Caitlin Clark's not on it. And it's not just like an ode to the veterans that started the league. Paige Beckers and Angel Reese are on it, and Caitlin Clark's not. You guys, when she broke into the league, you moved her road games to bigger arenas to accommodate the fans. You were flying the last 6 rows of Southwest Airlines until she made such an impact, you transitioned, pivoted to private jets. And she's not on the 30-year poster.
That drives some WNBA players nuts. And the whole thing about the planes and where you were and the pay and the TV exposure, they're all at record levels now. And some of it, a lot of it, is because of the extra eyes, lots and lots of eyes. I mean, we're talking over 1 million viewers normally going into the 2 and 3 million viewership on Caitlin Clark games. When you're at a job and someone comes in and is a hotshot and they haven't earned their keep, can everyone connect with this? There's going to be jealousy, right? I'll give you a radio example. Whenever we have a morning show again, they could bring in a megastar. That megastar could be making 5 times what me, Steve Cofield, is making. If the entire place rises and our sales go through the roof, and most importantly in the radio world, we actually have a bright future. This person is saving our ass. Everything's gotten better. You know what it's like too? Tiger Woods, right? How many golfers were pissed off about Tiger Woods? How many of those golfers, now Liv helped out, right? But without Tiger Woods, maybe there is no Liv. Maybe there is not that endless money. It's just this petty jealousy when a superstar comes in the league and changes the fortune for everyone. Just be grateful. Why do we have to fight it? We got to battle it. It's so dumb. Now, with that said, I will close on this, and we'll build on this tomorrow. Let's paint this picture. There are new members of the Mountain West Conference. What's going to happen if North Dakota State, who's now eligible to play for the Mountain West Conference title, what if North Dakota State comes in and kicks ass? And this league actually has, and I'd like to see UNLV be that team. What if North Dakota State raises the level of exposure for the conference to the point where they're challenging for that spot in the CFP? And everyone's like, North Dakota State, best thing that's happened in the Mountain West Conference in forever. There will be jealousy. This is human nature. We have to let it go. Sometimes new things, young people come in, they kick ass. They help a brighter future. Don't be jealous. Enjoy the ride.